just get your ass with it. Wait, it's operation.
Okay, so again, you're
you just get your ass with it. Wait, it's operation.
Some people I've seen. Some people I've seen. Again, So yeah, I am pro-life, anti-abortion. That is a human life, a human person in the womb. To kill that would be murder. So to justify, why that's a human, why that is a person, essentially it's that it meets all of the scientific criteria for what a life is. Some people I've seen. Some people I've seen.
again.
There is no mercy.
That's Rome. Indeed. Indeed. Luther. Calvin. Zwingli.
That may be Christ Jesus, it is He, our Son of His name.
Well, welcome, my friends, back to another edition of the Calvinist Corner, where we know all things, but we're not omniscient. My name is Professor Peter McWilson. I run a small seminary out of my basement, well, actually out of my mother's basement. But you'll forgive me, we live in times of mass apostasy, and mass apostasy requires drastic measures. And so here we are with another edition of the Calvinist Corner. As I said, I'm your host, Peter McWilson. And we've got a lot on the table for you today. We're going to talk about a lot of heresy. We're going to be inspecting a lot of heresy. We're going to be rebuking a lot of heresy. We're going to be setting things straight. You may know me from, I run several blogs. I run about 75 blogs. Some of the more famous of which may be Reforming and Romanizing the Federal Vision. That's one of my blogs, .org. I also run westmonster.blogspot.lutheranist/pedopostmill/pipad.com. You can find me there as well. And as always, at the Calvinist Corner, we like to discuss culture. And I happened upon a very well-made cigar here. This is apparently goes by the name of Swisher Sweet. It is very rare. I had to, in fact, drive all the way across town to the gas station that was over by the Quickie Mart. And that gas station actually carries the Swisher Sweets in the smaller size, which I prefer. Now they're not Cuban. I'm told that the Cuban cigars are the most prestigious, but I have it from reliable sources that the Swisher Sweets are in fact rolled by a Cuban man. So that's actually the next best thing. You can't, beggars can't be choosers in this country. So let's, that's got a strong kick on it, like a rifle, let me tell you. Well, as I said, we are cultured here, so we don't just talk about theology, we talk about culture. We are Calvinists in the 21st century, we're postmillennial, and we know that there's going to be a postmillennial victory. And so, one of the things that I have lately perused is beer. I've become quite the aficionado of beer. I have 3 articles this past year in Credenda Agenda. You'll find them there under the Drunkard's Tavern section. Here I've come across very rare beer as well. I had to purchase it at the same place that I found my Swisher Sweets. It runs by the name of, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, it's Michelob, all malt ale, apparently. All malt. It is Irish. Although it comes from St. Louis, Missouri, it is an authentic Irish beer, somehow. But, oh, good. Ow. Ah. Oh. Well, we'll set that aside, and I'll just rely on my chai. My chai tea. Oh, I love my chai. I gotta have it every day. Oh, let's get a kick to it, too. Well, let's talk about theology. This week in theology, we've had a lot of interesting developments, but there's a certain individual I would like to expose. And we Calvinists, of course, are the only ones involved in exposing anyone. But that's our duty. I would like to, first of all, cite a couple of my favorite Reformed theologians. The first of whom is Elyer in Kiddervich, who was known to say that the Reformed faith is the only faith. Reminds me of the famous Dutch Reformed theologian, Better Van You, who was also known to say that the Reformed faith is the only true faith. which also reminds me of the famous quote by the renowned Reformed thinker Cornelius Van Helsing, who was known for killing the Romanist vampires in the 14th century. You'll understand what I mean when you understand the Roman teaching of eating and drinking body and blood. Something preposterous. Now, I want to talk about this individual who goes by the name of Jay Dyer. He runs a preposterous website, Romanist Apostate Antichrist website, dedicated to all sorts of preposterous ideas. We read at his blog that he apparently thinks that the Reformed faith is incorrect. He left this Reformed faith. I kid you not. For Rome, and now has the gumption to attack it. Well, my friends. The first thing I would like to do is expose this individual with a thorough critique of his theology. And what I'm going to do in order to make that manifest to my subscribers is quote the renowned historian of the church, Jack Chick. And I found this at his website. He has an extensive expose where he says, quote, from the 14th century, Pope Poseidon II, okay, Pope Poseidon II, named after a pagan deity, said, quote, I am God. There you go. Dyer refuted. This individual is, of course, not trained in logic. I am. I run the Reformed Seminary out of my mom's basement, as I've mentioned before. This individual is not trained in logic, and we can see this very clearly as he tries to argue for all sorts of ridiculous things. Allow me to illustrate a common fallacy at Mr. Dyer's website. This relies on the simple principle of if S, then H, therefore I, if I, then T. If S, then H, H, therefore I, therefore T. And if you're familiar with what I'm talking about, you'll know how that very easily refutes Mr. Dyer. I tell you, these Fisher Sweets are just off the charts. Well, what else have we got here?
tight in a leathered screen. Each strike is a question the darkness asks. Each answer a broken dream. Dracula sings in cathedral veins, a choir of fear and wine dark breath. His kingdom is built from echoing names, carved in the ribs of death. I am no crown, and I am no throne. I am the hand that ends the night. If evil must fall, let it fall on stone, by flame, by will, by fire. Welcome to BPS Extravaganza with Andrew Wilson on DyerRadio. Welcome to BPS Extravaganza.
evening, everybody. Welcome back to The Crucible. I'm your host, Andrew Wilson. Tonight we have a special debate for you against Zen Shapiro and Vegan Gains on abortion and life. I think it's going to be a hell of a banger. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all the things that you're supposed to do. Make the algorithm like us. Notice tonight I went live a couple of minutes early and just kept up the background. The reason for that is a bunch of people have been saying they haven't been getting the notification. They hit the notification bell, but it looks like a fix for that, if you're not getting the notification, is to turn it off, like unclick the stupid bell or whatever, and then re-click it. And that seems to get rid of the notification problem. So I don't think it's like a shadow banning issue. I think it's just an issue of how YouTube operates, basically. So, in any case, make sure that you do that. We just want to make sure that, that we can kind of test that as we go. I always get the notification. That's good. I'm glad that people are actually getting the notification, but a lot of people don't. So that's why we popped in just a little bit early, just kind of testing it out. So, anyway, I'll be back in just a second with our debaters. Tonight, as we have a head-to-head matchup between Vegan Gains and Zen Shapiro. Been looking forward to this one. Have a nice glass of Coca-Cola, which may or may not have alcohol in it, but I'm going to be enjoying it. Vegan Gains, take a second, shout your channel out to everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Vegan Gains on YouTube, and I do have an OnlyFans, so, Vegan Gains OnlyFans if you want to see me naked.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, that's not like a joke?
No, I have an OnlyFans. Yeah, I do full nudes.
Okay. Zen Shapiro, go ahead. What's
that? Yeah, I disavow. I'm Zen Shapiro. I am now the co-host of The Crucible, formerly the in-house right-wing debater, promoted to co-host. I'm back from my paternity leave from the birth of my daughter. You can find me on Twitter and YouTube. I have my own channel that I don't post to very much. Just search up Zen Shapiro. But you'll mostly find me on The Crucible going forward. So happy to be here.
So, co-host or not, there is no mercy on The Crucible. And if you suck, you just get your ass whipped. That's just the way that it operates. But anyhow, 7 minutes on the clock for both of you gentlemen for your opening statement. Zen, I'm going to set the clock right now. 1 second here. Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, so yeah, I am pro-life, anti-abortion. Essentially, the position is that is a human life, a human person in the womb. To kill that would be murder. So to justify, why that's a human, why that is a person, essentially it's that it meets all of the scientific criteria for what a life is, which is, being made of cells, DNA, having homeostasis, metabolic processes, growing, changing, reproducing, and reacting to stimuli. And what establishes it as a human person is that it possesses the DNA of a human being that is, distinguished from the mother and the father, and actually possesses the chromosomes of both the mother and the father. So that's what we're talking about when we say human being, from, my perspective. It's a living thing that is a human, that is genetically distinct, possesses chromosomes of both the mother and the father. And that occurs at the moment of conception.
Sorry.
That occurs at the moment of conception, and so from that, any point after that would be to kill a human being, which is to commit a murder. And some people I've seen, so that's essentially my argument, and I do want to kind of touch on what I'm interpreting Vegan Gains' argument to be. But some people I've seen have thought it's kind of like funny or ironic that it's like, well, he's a vegan, he values animal life, but then he's okay with killing unborn humans. And on the surface, that does sound like funny or like ironic, contradictory. I don't know. It does sound funny, but to be good faith and not just a hand wave, that it is actually consistent with the vegan worldview, where they claim to value sentient life. So what they're going to say is essentially that it's, they'll grant that it's a human life, but it's not sentient, so they don't place any moral consideration on it as a person per se. And if I'm getting it right, I'll let Vegan Gains clarify if it is wrong. But essentially they say, I value sentience and potential sentience for that which has already achieved sentience. So if a fetus has not yet achieved sentience, then there's nothing wrong with killing it. If it has already achieved the sentience, then it would be wrong to kill it or to end its sentient experience. And that's essentially their argument in a nutshell. My line of attack is going to there's going to be multiple angles, but first and foremost, what do you mean by sentience? What is sentience? How do you distinguish it from simple reactivity? What is the basis for invoking sentience, asserting sentience as some ontological state of being? Because as far as I know, there's not really any scientific consensus on it. You'll get a lot of different answers if you ask people what sentience is, what the conscious experience actually entails, and ultimately, again, how do you distinguish that from just a reactivity? Like, how do you distinguish a baby screaming from a plant giving off spores or whatever, or an ant running from sunlight under the magnifying glass? How are you going to say one is sentient and one is not? There's not really any basis for that other than, I guess, your preferences for what you interpret sentience to be. But it's going to be really hard to make an argument based on your preferences, because you're not going to have an ought for why I should agree with your preferences. Why ought we value your preference of sentience over the existence of a life, for example? So there, it's kind of the is to ought gap. Even if I do grant you what sentience is, why ought I even value it in the first place? So that's generally going to be the line of attack. And I think it's important to note that it is a philosophical debate, but we are, again, appealing to science to some degree or another. Both of us are. When I invoke life and human life at conception, I at the very least, have an overwhelming scientific consensus on my side. And I do have sources and studies to back it up, but essentially it's like 95% of biologists agree that it's a human life at conception, and there's no consensus whatsoever as to what sentience is or when it even begins. So there's not really any basis to make the argument that killing a sentient life is wrong, because what is sentience? So that's, I think I'll wrap it up there. And I want to, one other thing, when we get into these, like, why ought I value things, that's obviously going to be a meta-ethical discussion, which I'm happy to get into. But I do want to attempt to keep it on a normative level for as long as we can until we're forced to go to meta-ethics, which again is fine, but yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you for that opening. I'm going to reset the timer. Go ahead. Engage when ready.
All right, so my position isn't necessarily either pro-life or pro-choice. Like you mentioned, I'm pro-sentience. I do believe life begins at conception, but I don't believe meaningful life begins at conception. For one thing, immediately after conception, the zygote that is created by the fusion of a male and female gamete does not contain a unique genetic code. There are two distinct nuclei that merely contain a separate genetic code from the mother and a separate genetic code from the father. It isn't until after a process called syngamy does the zygote then possess its own unique genome, where genetic information for both the mother and the father combine to create a distinctly unique organism with its own genetic code. Secondly, sentience certainly does not arise immediately after conception or even after syngamy. In all likelihood, sentience arises weeks after conception, perhaps the earliest time frame being around 8 weeks, gestation, or perhaps longer. If we only place value on a zygote or fetus having unique human genetic code and not on its sentience, I believe that position is in fact anti-pro-life, as this can lead to situations where we put mothers at unnecessary risk of disease or death. Also that we can save a gross cancerous collection of cells which just so happens to contain living human tissue. And I have an example of a photo of a hydatidiform mole pregnancy, which I believe, unless he has changed his position substantially, Zen Shapiro would be in favor of trying to preserve this life. Can I share my screen? Okay, let me see if I can share screen.
Can I just hit present at the bottom there?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. There's my screen. So this is a mole pregnancy. This is, in fact, living human tissue. So this is partly a human fetus that is alive, or at least was once living. So according to Zen Shapiro, if the only thing we value is, unique human genetic material that happens to be living, this is something that we have to save. And again, it's worth risking the life of a mother to save this for at least as long as we can. So I think any reasonable person would agree that's just insane. So there you go.
Is that your, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Okay, gotcha. So our openings are done. Ladies and gentlemen, before I open up the floor, remember that we will be taking callers tonight and, of course, super chats. I'll give kind of the high sign when we're ready to start letting callers in. And, you adhere to the mods. They'll kind of direct you if you want to call in either to ask Vegan Gaines or Zen Shapiro a question. The lines will be open for that. So with that, make sure that you send in a lot of super chats because I need a new computer. So I'm kidding. Anyway, floor is open. Go ahead, guys.
Okay, so where do you want to go first, syngamy or the molar pregnancy? Because I'm ready for both.
Yeah, so I want clarification. Do you believe there are multiple criteria for a human life after conception to be valuable, which is, unique genetic code?
Yeah, being genetically distinct and, I don't know if maybe you weren't listening, but possessing the chromosomes of both the mother and the father. Did you hear that part?
Right. So if you're going to have that aspect of it, unique genetic code, again, a zygote immediately after conception doesn't have unique genetic code.
Yeah. So being a cell that possesses the chromosomes of both the mother and the father, that's what I mean when I'm invoking distinct genetic code.
Okay, so you should just remove the stipulation of distinct because it's not distinct.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm clarifying.
Right. Okay,
so at conception, that's what's occurring, right?
Okay, so at conception, you don't care if it's actually unique genetic code. You just care if
it is. I'm saying when I say unique or distinct genetic code, I'm saying it's a single cell that possesses the DNA and the chromosomes of both the mother and the father.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily unique. It's just that the single cell possesses.
Well,
both
when I
DNA
say
and the mother
unique,
and
I mean like distinct. It's genetically distinct from the mother and genetically distinct from the father. It's both of them
not
combined. Well, actually, it is.
It's not both of them
single
combined.
Cell with the DNA of both.
Well, it's not both of them combined. It's a single cell with both DNA.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a single cell that is not just the mother's DNA or not just the father's DNA. It is both and possesses the chromosomes of both.
Right, but it's not a mix of the two. It's not until
okay. So when you have 23 chromosomes of the father and 23 chromosomes of the mother, and they come together in a single cell,
they aren't coming together in a single cell until syngamy occurs.
Okay, whether it's look, the syngamy thing, I mean, I can tell who you've been talking with, and I know your crew.
Well, I didn't talk to him. I just saw your debate.
Yeah, it's fine, but it's the steel man of the whole syngamy thing is, and anybody in the audience can look this up if you're interested. Basically, syngamy and fertilization are basically synonymous terms, and they're both essential processes of the conception.
They're not synonymous.
You can say that they're not, but I mean, anybody can look it up and you'll see that they are.
They're not synonymous terms. You can have fertilization without.
So it doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter. So either way, I'm going to say either way, whether it's syngamy or fertilization, I'm going to say that when it's a unique genetic code, when it's an individuated organism based on its DNA and based on its chromosomes of both the mother and the father, that's what we're calling a person. That's what I'm calling a person. And to kill that is murder. Doesn't matter if you're saying fertilization or syngamy. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Again, fertilization is not the same thing as syngamy. So do you only care about fertilization?
I'm saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what
you only care about fertilization.
No, it doesn't matter what term you use. In fact, if you go back in my opening statement, I didn't even use the term fertilization because I know that these semantics can get touchy. But what matters is that it is a genetically distinct organism based on having the chromosomes of the mother and the father in a single cell. That's what I mean. So can you
right? It doesn't matter if syngamy occurs. You only care about fertilization.
I don't care what we're calling it. I'm saying that's the criteria that I'm valuing.
Okay,
so
well,
that's what
fertilization and syngamy are two different things. I just want you to answer yes or no.
You can keep saying that, and I'm going to keep telling you that it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, I just want you to answer yes or no. It's a simple question. Do you not care about syngamy? Do you only care about fertilization?
I'm telling you that they're basically synonymous terms, and they're both part of the process of conception.
They're not. Fertilization is separate from syngamy because you can have fertilization without syngamy. You can't have
syngamy without fertilization. They're both part of the same process.
No, they're not. Normally, syngamy does occur about 24 hours after fertilization, but you can have a situation.
The whole process of conception, it's a varying process. But what I'm telling you is what matters is that when the sperm cell and the egg cell come together, create a new single cell that is possessing the mother's chromosomes and the father's chromosomes. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't. You can laugh. You can snarky laugh all you want.
It's literally a yes or no question, and it seems like it doesn't even matter to you. So I don't know why you're dodging.
Yes, because I'm telling you, I don't want to have this semantics debate. I want to get to the meat of the issue.
Don't just answer yes or no. It doesn't even sound like you particularly care.
I don't think it matters to answer yes or no, because you're going to get conflicting responses online.
No.
I don't know.
You don't find any conflicting responses.
You actually do. Okay, so I would challenge everybody in the audience to look up syngamy versus fertilization, and you'll see that everybody will say that they're synonymous. They're part of the same process.
There's so much overlap. We're not able to. The audience isn't able to understand what's going on. So we're going to start with vegan gains. Go ahead.
Sure. So fertilization is separate from syngamy. You can have a male gamete fertilize an egg. It's just that there are two distinct nuclei within that zygote that's created.
And it's a single cell,
So one of the nuclei
is a single cell, right?
Yeah, it's a single cell. One of the nuclei is from the father. One of the nuclei is from the mother. I'm asking you, if syngamy does not occur,
it's single cell, right?
You only care about fertilization.
I care about when it becomes a single cell that possesses the mother's chromosomes and the father's chromosomes.
So you don't care about syngamy. You can have fertilization. That's a human life. Okay.
I care about when it becomes a single cell that has the mother's chromosomes and the father's chromosomes, and that's what I mean when I say genetically distinct. I don't care about syngamy. Okay, so we can move on, right?
Okay, you don't care about syngamy.
Correct.
So if we had a mass of cells that you would call human life because they are human cells, but you have a cell line that ends up developing that only contains the father's DNA, and you have a cell line that's developing that contains the mother's DNA, you are having fertilization, you are having a metabolic process where cells divide and grow. Do you believe that if a mother is in a situation where there is this mass of cells that are growing,
are you talking about the molar
mass of cells has to be protected?
Are you talking about the molar pregnancy?
No, that's not a molar pregnancy. That's a different thing.
Yes, it is a molar pregnancy, dude.
That's not a molar pregnancy.
Or
molar pregnancy is when the sperm doesn't embed itself properly inside the egg, and then you end up getting like cancerous growths.
Okay, so you don't know what you're talking about then, because what you just showed on screen for your opening statement, the layman term for that is molar pregnancy. I'm very familiar.
I'm pretty
with
sure
it.
those
I knew you were
are
going to go
two separate phenomena, but either
no,
way.
they're not. Look, okay, so what is the thing that it's called a hypotidatiform mole? What is it called exactly?
Yeah, it's hydatidiformal mole pregnancy.
Hydatidiform molar pregnancy.
Hydatidiform mole pregnancy. Yeah.
Molar pregnancy. So you're already showing that you didn't actually do your research for this,
I'm pretty sure those are two distinct phenomena, but it doesn't really matter.
You can say you're pretty sure, but you would be wrong. And I would also encourage everybody in the audience to look up
of cells.
Yeah, I would also encourage everybody in the audience to look up hydatidiform mole and molar pregnancy. You'll find that they are the same things. It's just a semantics game. But molar pregnancy is like the layman term for this. And when you say that it possesses the mother and the father's chromosomes, maybe you don't know that it actually doesn't. A full molar pregnancy only possesses the father's chromosomes. So that actually wouldn't meet the criteria for person that I gave.
Actually, it does. It contains both the mother and the father chromosomes.
Nope. A full molar pregnancy only possesses the father's chromosomes, and it fills an empty egg. But a partial molar pregnancy does possess both, and there is fetal development along with the tumorous mass, whatever it is. And at that point, you actually would remain on the side of caution and preserve that, because there's a potential for the human life to actually survive and sustain itself. So. And
again, this is what you're talking about.
I think that's a very extreme version of it, and I think that would be a full molar pregnancy, so that wouldn't actually meet the criteria.
I'm pretty sure
but then
this
it's also
isn't a full molar pregnancy.
Well, let me finish real quick. Let me finish. It's also important to distinguish the so-called exception to the. Can we get this off screen, please? Can we please? Okay. So,
well, that's what you're talking about.
I know. We've all seen it already. People can go back and look if they want. But it's important to distinguish the so-called exception to the pro-life position. It's more so just a caveat that if the mother's life is in danger due to the pregnancy, then it's okay to terminate said pregnancy. And the intent is not to murder the child. The intent is to save hang on. Let me finish what I'm saying. The intent is actually to save the mother's life or save her, her wellness, whatever it may be. And these molar pregnancies, the natural process for them actually is to be miscarried. Typically the process is that they get miscarried within like a month or maybe like the first trimester or whatnot. If they do not, then they run the risk of developing some severe cancer within the womb of the mother and would threaten her life, and at which point we're vindicated. So this molar pregnancy thing doesn't work.
All pregnancies run the risk of death. In the U.S., I believe it's 19 per 100,000 births.
It's incredibly rare. Yeah.
And I think the highest is in some countries in Africa, like 400. If we have a situation where there's a molar pregnancy, and we can calculate within reasonable certainty that if we just allow that mass of cells, which includes living human tissue, to go on living inside the womb, and doing so would basically give the mother the same level or less risk than a typical pregnancy. Would you be in favor of that?
You mean the thing that we've never seen before ever?
Yeah. Would you be in favor of that?
So basically what he's saying is that if we have a molar pregnancy that doesn't get miscarried and then just sits in the mother's womb for like some perpetual period of time and doesn't threaten the life of the mother, would it be justified to?
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't threaten the mother, but yeah, there are circumstances in the real world where the risk would be about the same as just having a normal birth, especially if you consider globally. Risk of birth.
Wait, you're saying that if that a molar pregnancy that doesn't get miscarried, the risk of death is similar to a regular birth? That's just not the case, though. The molar pregnancies
there certainly are cases.
No, literally they're not. That's why they have to remove them after a certain period of time, because they become a threat.
Okay, sure. After a certain period of time, but you're in favor of again, trying to extend the life of that mass, correct?
Well, it would depend if there is viable fetal tissue present that is still developing, or if
What do
it's
you mean viable fetal tissue?
Well, if it, again, viable meaning it's still sustaining itself and reproducing as a fetus normally does, and then developing a heartbeat, things like that. Those are just indicators. There's no one thing. But it's like we hang on. If we are looking at indicators that it is continuing to develop as a fetus does, and there's also this mass, then we're going to do what we can to preserve the fetus, and hopefully birth it as a normal child. But if it's a full molar pregnancy where there's no fetal tissue or no chromosomes of the mother, so it's just like fertilized an empty egg, then that would not meet the criteria for person that I invoked, and it would be permissible to remove that.
Okay, so there's a few things going on. For one, you keep modifying the hypothetical that I propose and not answering the question. And two, you're adding like an additional stipulation to what human life is.
I'm literally
where the fetus has to develop properly, quote unquote. So if the fetus was developing improperly, quote unquote, you'd be in favor of abortion.
If the fetal tissue is showing indicators of like continual development. Like, again, the first indicator would be like a heartbeat, brain development, organs, things like that. Then that would be an indicator that there's a viable life, a viable person still in the womb that we would want to preserve. But in which case we would err on the side of caution and try to preserve it. If it starts to threaten the mother, we got to do what we got to do. Is what it is, and it's sad. But again, that's not what we're talking about when we say abortion and murder. And then full molar pregnancy, the only potential that has is to grow as not the criteria for a person that I invoked and only threaten the life of the mother. So we can actually just get rid of that as soon as we detect it.
Okay, so again, you're just not answering my hypothetical. The hypothetical I gave you was assuming there's a partial molar pregnancy where if we let it gestate for a longer period of time to the point where again, birthing it would assume the same amount of risk as a typical pregnancy. Would you be in favor of preserving that partial molar pregnancy, assuming it has living human tissue?
If the partial molar pregnancy is showing that there is a fetus continually developing and that can be preserved, then yes, we would want to preserve that. But if we're seeing that Dude, I literally just answered your hypothetical. You said if there is a partial molar pregnancy that is no greater risk than any other pregnancy, like those, 17 in 100,000 or whatever risk.
You're modifying the hypothetical.
Let me finish. I'm recreating your hypothetical as
you're not.
You said if there is a partial molar pregnancy that is running the same risk as any other pregnancy, so no greater risk for death of the mother, would we want to preserve that? And the answer is yes, because there is a potentially viable fetus still growing in there. That's a human person that we would not want to kill. But if there is not a viable fetus growing in there, then that's not going to meet the criteria that I invoked. So it's fine.
Again, in the hypothetical, it's assumed the fetus isn't going to obtain sentience. So let's say it's developing without a brain. Would you be in favor of, again, attempting to carry it to term, assuming?
Well, that would be something that would indicate that it's not developing, that it's not progressing and is dying.
No, you can have a fetus that develops without a brain. That's actually not terribly uncommon.
And again, like I said, if there are
anencephaly and hydrancephaly.
So we can look at the picture that you shared. We don't have to bring it up again, but it's like the emotional appeal of like, oh my God, look at this thing that Zen is calling a person that we need to preserve. Oh, tumor lives matter. Oh, but no, the thing is, you can see in that one there's no viable fetal tissue in that picture, and that's an extreme
fetal
case.
tissue.
No, not I said viable fetal tissue.
What is viable? Define viable.
Okay, so I'm going to finish what I was saying. That there's no viable fetal tissue in that, and it's ultimately just an extreme case that you're looking for shock value on, to find a gotcha or something. But there isn't one because I've given you a clear criteria, a clear definition.
No, you
haven't. It would depend on
You've
whether
actually added additional stipulations.
It would depend on whether the criteria are met or not, whether we're going to preserve the life or not.
Okay, so you started off agreeing that for something to be considered a human life, it has to have, living human tissue, which, has a human genetic code, and it has to have unique genetic code containing genetic code from both the mother and the father.
Chromosomes from the mother and the father, yeah.
Now you're adding an additional stipulation where the fetus has to be viable. And what do you mean by that? Define what a viable fetus
so again,
is.
When I say viable, I'm just talking about indicators that we would look for that is continuing to develop. That's all I mean when I say viable. I think the definition of viable on its face is far too vague to.
Can you give me an example of a non-viable fetus?
Yeah. So things that we would look for is like if we're 8 to 10 weeks into the pregnancy and there's no heartbeat, that would just simply be an indicator that the fetus is not developing properly and has probably died in the womb.
Sorry, did you say 8 weeks?
And I said if we do an ultrasound at roughly 8 to 10 weeks or 7 weeks, whenever you do your first ultrasound.
There's no heartbeat at 8 to 10 weeks.
Whenever you, okay, you're wrong.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Again,
no, the heartbeat. The sound is made by the ultrasound
typically develops
machine.
at around 5 to 7 weeks. 5 on the absolute earliest, 7 to 8 or whatever.
It's
on the
created by the ultrasound machine. There's no actual heartbeat. It's just electrical signals.
When you go to your first ultrasound and you see, you can keep interrupting, but it doesn't make you any more right. When you go to your first ultrasound and you find that there's no electronic pulsates being indicated by the ultrasound machine.
So then we're not talking about
that we're classifying as a heartbeat.
That's not a heartbeat.
That would give us an dude, can you stop interrupting?
Okay, well, you can't keep confusing everybody and conflating terms. There's no heartbeat. It's just electrical signals that are interpreted by the ultrasound.
All right, hang on. We got to bring some semblance of order back into this. Okay, so Vegan Gains, restate specifically what it is that you want.
Wait, he was interrupting me. Why are you giving him
just because
okay,
I'm
well,
pick on you.
Just let him finish. I just wanted to clarify. There's no heartbeat at the gestational period. Well, I'll let you finish. I just wanted to clarify. There's no heartbeat in the gestational period you're talking about. It's electrical signals that are interpreted by an ultrasound machine as a beat. The sound is produced by the ultrasound machine. It's just an electrical signal in the area where the heart will eventually be.
Yeah. So when we go into your first ultrasound, because you asked me when you asked me what are some indicators that we're looking for, I said when you go into your first ultrasound appointment or whatever, and you do not see the pulsates from the ultrasound machine that would indicate a heartbeat or a developing heartbeat or whatever it is, that would show us that this fetus is not developing properly and has probably died, and at which point it would either miscarry or need to be removed surgically because it's not viable and it can only result in threat to the mother. And that's the same thing that would go on with the mullet pregnancy.
Okay, what if the fetus is developing without a brain?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if we have the technology to necessarily detect that.
Well, we do.
But if it's maintaining a heartbeat and it's developing other organs and things like that, then these are continuing indicators that the fetus has the potential to remain viable, to remain alive, to remain living. So that would be still a living person.
Remain living till when?
A living person that we do not want to kill.
Remain living till when?
What do you mean living till when? How would I know?
Well, you're trying to produce a definition of viable. Like, okay, a fetus without electrical signals, around their heart. Okay, well, it might still be alive. Again, there might still be living tissue that's replicating and shit. I don't know what you mean by you're giving a really vague definition of viable. I just like to know what you mean exactly.
Yeah, again, I agree that the definition of viable itself is very vague and hard to go on. I'm using it as an indicator that the fetus is continuing to develop and continuing to sustain itself. When we look in an ultrasound and find that there is no heartbeat, that's usually a dead giveaway that the fetus it is no longer viable and is no longer sustaining itself. So that's what I'm saying. That's all I mean when I say viable. We don't need to, again, get caught up in these semantics that for some reason you love to play. I'm giving you a few more. I'll give you a few more minutes to have this line of questioning, but at some point I do need to explore your worldview.
How long would you? Okay, so for you to be interested in preserving this fetal life, how long would the fetus have to be viable for?
Yeah, as long as it continues to develop, as long as it continues to sustain itself.
As long as it continues to sustain itself.
Yeah, obviously with the help of the mother, but you know what I mean.
Okay, so then you would be interested in keeping a partial molar pregnancy alive for as long as it can still grow.
Yeah, assuming the fetal tissue is continuing to develop, then that's still a human person in the womb. If the fetal tissue ceases to sustain itself, which again there are indicators of, I don't think there's any hard line definition to go on, but there's indicators such as a heartbeat and such as just organ development and whatnot, that would point to the fetus no longer being viable, no longer being able to survive. And at which point there's no reason. Can you share
the screen again, please?
Are we going to look at your shock value photo again?
It's not. I don't know why this is shocking.
Everybody's already
Have you ever made a steak? Like, this isn't particularly shocking.
Everybody's already
look at the ground beef.
You're just looking for an emotional.
Yeah, look at the ground. This isn't particularly shocking. If you look at the ground beef you cook, this isn't much different. So again, this does contain fetal. This does contain fetal tissue.
Especially knowing that this came from a human, yeah, it's much different.
This is fetal tissue that was developing. It's just that this molar pregnancy was
and then I would imagine that they looked through an ultrasound or some other detection system and found that there was no heartbeat. Right. There was no continued fetal development.
Well, let's assume there was a heartbeat and the fetus continued to develop. I don't even.
Then we would preserve it. I don't understand what's your mental issue here.
I don't even understand.
If there is continued development and the heartbeat is remaining to pulsate, then we're preserving that because that's still a human being. That's still a human person.
Is the heartbeat a necessary
it's not,
component? You could, in theory.
Again, I don't know. Are your ears clogged or something?
Well, I'm asking you, is the heartbeat a necessary component?
There's no one thing that we are.
It doesn't have to be one thing. I'm just asking you, does a heartbeat have to be a necessary component?
Can you let me finish a sentence? Okay, so there's not one thing that we're pointing to determine that is a viable fetus, but I'm telling you, there are indicators that we look at, and the heartbeat is typically a dead giveaway. Once it has begun or has not begun after 7 or 8 weeks or whatever, those are indicators of whether it is a sustained and viable human life. If there's no heartbeat, then that's just an indicator, and then there's probably other indicators that I'm not aware of and you're not aware of.
I would imagine the best indicator would be an ultrasound showing growth of the fetal mass.
Yeah, continued growth and continued development.
So I'm asking if, a heartbeat is a necessary component to you considering a fetus viable, or is it part of...
No, I'm saying that's an indicator that it's remaining viable.
Okay, so the partial molar pregnancy photo that I showed you, that mass of cells, which includes fetal tissue, if that had no heart, but if you looked on an ultrasound that the fetal mass is still replicating and growing, like the cells are dividing, and it still has metabolic activity, you would be in favor of preserving that life as long as you can.
Yeah, so if you look at it and there's no heartbeat, what I would probably say in that scenario is to give it some time and check again, like maybe in a few days or a week or whatnot. If there's still no heartbeat, then that the human person is not going to be able to survive, and it's likely already dead.
Okay, so now it has to survive outside the womb.
Again, that's just.
Wait, this is totally different from what you're saying. So now a fetus has to survive outside the womb?
You've got this major problem with interrupting. Okay, so this is just a typical indicator that we look for once the heartbeat has already developed or not developed at 7 weeks. Like if we see that there's no heartbeat at all, obviously it's a miscarriage or whatever, or a molar pregnancy. Prior to that, there are criteria for life that we actually can't even detect on ultrasounds. Like that's done in like test tubes and whatnot. So like when we're talking about molar pregnancies, we have to be pragmatic here and discuss like what do you do in that scenario? Well, you would probably wait after you see that there's no heartbeat, wait a few days or wait a week or whatever. Go check again, do it with another ultrasound, and if there's still no heartbeat, then it's either going to be miscarried or need to be removed. Because at that point, it only becomes a threat to the mother's life.
Okay, you literally just add another stipulation saying that the fetus has to survive outside the womb.
No, I didn't.
You literally mentioned that the fetus.
No, I said it's either going to have to be removed.
No, you literally during your rant you said it has to be able to survive outside the womb.
I never said that.
Sounded like you did.
Maybe you should lay off the soy.
Well,
make you hear things. I didn't.
Soy.
Yes, soy jokes. Haha. So, dude, do you have any actual critiques, like internal critiques that are successful?
I can just crush your head.
I doubt
soy,
it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, soy.
You doubt it? You want to set up a boxing match, dude?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay,
we'll
cool.
set it up another time.
Okay, cool.
But,
you literally did just mention that one of the criteria that you would look for in considering a fetus viable is whether or not it would survive once born.
No, I didn't say. I don't know where you heard me.
You
say
mentioned that. It might have been a mistake, but you mentioned that.
No, I didn't. Okay. So what I said was, if we can look and see that there's no sustained heartbeat, then that would be an indicator that the human person's life is not being sustained either, and at which point it would need to either be miscarried naturally or removed because it can only be a threat to the mother's life at that point. There's no potential for continued development of the fetus, the life, the person, whatever you want to call it at that point. So
okay. So assuming, let's say, if this mass of cells from the molar pregnancy were to be able to just keep growing, if we put it in, like, I don't know, some type of vat or test tube, and like injected sugar and like minerals and nutrients into it, and it would keep growing, you would be in favor of forcing a mother to keep that mass of cells to term, assuming it had the same risk. No, you haven't.
No,
assuming it had the same risk as a normal pregnancy.
No, I've already answered this.
No,
I don't know why you keep asking the same question.
You haven't answered that.
Yes, I have.
So
I told you that if we look and we see that there's no indications of the fetus continuing.
Okay, there you go, changing the hypothetical again. You're just dodging. I literally gave you a hypothetical where the mass of cells keeps developing.
Yeah, the mass of cells. Is it sustaining a heartbeat? Are the organs developing? Are there indications of it continuing to develop as what we know to be a person?
Okay, totally different now. Totally different. Now it has to look like a person. Now it has to look like a person.
I'm asking what's called a clarifying question.
No, now this thing has to look like a person eventually for you to say that.
You can't just give me. I never said that it has to look like a person.
I said literally just said that.
Okay, then let me clarify what I said, since you won't clarify what you said. So when I said, are there indicators in this scenario that you're presenting? Are there indicators of continued development along the cycle or the sequence of fetal development in the womb? Are there indicators that it's continuing to develop like a normal pregnancy would, a non-molar pregnancy would, where the fetus is continuing to sustain itself? I would need to know that in order to answer your hypothetical fully. But if you're just going to say it's a molar pregnancy,
I literally.
If you're just going to say it's a partial molar pregnancy.
Yeah, I literally explained that in the hypothetical.
Yeah,
so in the hypothetical, I can go through it again. Let me
ask the clarifiers that we can go through. Is it maintaining a heartbeat?
I don't see what that matters. You said as long as there's development.
It matters to me in order to answer your question.
Okay, let's say no.
Well, then that's an indicator that it's not continuing to develop. Is it developing any other organs like brain, or liver, kidneys?
Let's say it's not developing a brain, but it's developing liver, kidneys, other.
I don't think that would actually occur where you could have no heartbeat but continue to develop.
Okay, well let's say the heart
is literally responsible for delivering blood and oxygen to the other organs of the body. So if there's
fine, I'll change the hypothetical so it sounds more realistic. Let's say this. I'll change the hypothetical so it sounds more realistic for you.
Okay.
Let's say this molar pregnancy, the fetus was developing a heart, its organ systems, but no brain.
Well, then we're gonna try to preserve it and see that if a brain does develop and if it
doesn't.
So I don't believe that there would be a scenario where you develop a heart. Let me finish.
There is. It's called hydrancephaly.
Okay, how do you even know that there? How are you disagreeing with me when you don't let me finish?
It's a condition called hydrancephaly. Babies can be born without a brain.
So, okay, if there is a condition where there's the heart organs, everything's developing, but the brain is either severely malformed or not even present at all, and it's still developing as a person, then that's fine to preserve, yeah.
Okay, so you'd be in favor again.
Assuming that's real. I haven't heard of this scenario.
Well, Google it right now. You can look up hydra ancestry.
Unlike you, I'm charitable. I'll take your word that it is a condition. If that does develop and get birthed as a person, then that's fine. Like, why would we kill that? Yeah, there's no reason to.
Right. So if there were a massive cells in a molar pregnancy,
are you seriously going to keep doing this stupid hypothetical?
That ended up developing a heart.
All right. So we're now 15. I don't care.
Organ systems. No brain. No brain. You would force the mother to have that child.
Okay. So I've answered your hypothetical literally 5, 6, 7
okay,
times.
well, just say yes or no. It's very quick, and then we can move on. It's very quick, and then we can move on.
No, it's not very quick, because every time I answer it, you keep modifying
well,
it.
Well, that's the last time. If you answer honestly, yes or no, that's the last time I'll have to ask.
No, dude, you've already asked the same hypothetical.
Right, so if there was a molar pregnancy where the fetus developed all of its organ systems except a brain, you would be in favor of forcing the mother to take that pregnancy to term. Assuming it had no greater risk.
I wouldn't call it forcing, but assuming that there is potential for that child to actually continue developing and be sustained, then absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so hydranencephaly is a different condition than what we're explaining.
Well, I don't really care. So I want to. Okay, so listen, we're 50 minutes in.
So listen. Well, just to clarify, you'd be in favor of risking the mother dying in a 19 out of 100,000 chance to give birth to a disgusting clump of cells that doesn't have a brain, but it has other organ systems.
I don't think I said that, no. because when you say okay, so you're invoking another condition on top of the molar pregnancy in order to modify
cancer. It's a glob of cancerous cells mixed with human tissue. It just happens to also have a heart, other organ systems, and no brain.
If the human tissue is continuing to sustain itself within the womb and develop, then we are preserving it, regardless of what condition it has.
Okay, so no legs, no arms, no brain, just heart, kidneys, liver.
Will you let me finish? And if there are indicators that it is continuing to sustain itself, such as organ development, heartbeat, things like growth of the fetal tissue itself, then that's how we know to sustain it. If those things cease, then there's no one indicator, but if those things cease to continue, then that's an indicator that the pregnancy is no longer viable, that the fetus is no longer viable, at which point we are justified in removing. So I've already answered all this. You're going to modify it again. I think I'm just going to reject that because we are 50 minutes into this debate. I haven't even gotten to explore your worldview at all because you just want to keep hitting me with these modified hypotheticals that aren't even actually grounded in reality. So I want to know this. What is sentience?
Okay, two things first.
What is sentience?
Two things first.
No, I don't care.
Okay, you know what? I just want one clarifying question.
No, I don't. No, I want you to tell me what sentience is.
No, I want one clarifying question. So you would force the mother to carry a child to term and risk a 19 out of 100,000 chance of death.
What is sentience?
To give birth to a child that has no brain.
What is sentience?
Would you force a mother to give birth to a child and have a 19 out of 100,000 chance of dying to give birth to a child with no brain?
What is sentience?
Yes or no? Yes or no, and then I'll answer your question.
I've already answered it.
Yes or no, and then I'll answer your question.
I've already answered it. What is
yes
sentience?
Or no? You didn't. Yes or no, and then I'll answer your question. Yes or no, and then I'll answer your question. No, you didn't. It's yes or no. I will answer your question if you just say yes or no.
It's not a yes or no question. There are variables that go into it that we need to clarify.
It is a yes or no question.
And you keep modifying because you're not getting what you want.
It is a yes or no question. You would risk a mother dying to give birth to a baby without a brain. Yes or no?
Dude, what is sentience? Can you tell me?
Would you risk a mother dying to give birth to a baby who has no brain, yes or no?
I've already answered your question.
You did not. Would you risk a mother dying to give birth to a baby with no brain, yes or no?
We can't stay on this.
Make him answer the question. Just yes or no, and then I'll answer whatever question he wants. And we'll go down the whole line of questioning.
So from my perspective, if you're asking for a yes or no qualified question, a person doesn't have to answer it yes or no.
It is a yes or no question.
Maybe
It's not,
it's
though.
presented as a yes or no question, but I can't force a person to answer yes or no. They can answer the question how they see fit.
What's the issue with answering yes or
Well,
no?
because there are
Let's say
clarifiers
the
that must
baby
be
will
made. There are
let's say the
clarifiers that
baby
must
will
be made.
survive for a while after giving birth, but it has no brain. Would you force a mother to risk dying in the pregnancy to give birth to a baby with no brain?
I've already clarified this too. If the mother's life is in danger,
No,
then
well,
obviously,
every
if you let
pregnancy
me finish
carries
if
risk.
you want, you keep
Every
asking me
pregnancy
questions,
carries
and I
risk.
start to answer them, you
I
cut me off.
literally
Stop
stipulated this
interrupting
in the
me.
hypothetical.
Stop
19
interrupting
out of
me,
100,000
You can't
chance.
control yourself, dude. It's the
I
story
literally
range. It's the story
stipulated
range.
this in the hypothetical.
Listen,
19 in 100,000 chance.
If the mother's life is in danger, if it's legitimately
Every pregnancy is danger.
living is a threat to your life. Everything you do is a threat to your life. Obviously, there's going to be some
19 out of 100,000 chance. Would you take that chance for a mother to give birth to a baby?
I've already answered this. If it's a sustainable, if the life is being sustained and continuing to develop, then there's no reason to kill it.
Okay, so
I've answered it. I've answered it. Now,
okay, all right. So I just want it. Okay, I just want it to be known. He would force a woman to give birth to a baby without a brain and risk her dying to give birth to a baby with no brain.
What is sentience?
Okay, so sentience is the ability to have a subjective experience.
Okay, and how do you identify that that is occurring?
How do I identify?
Yeah.
Well, the easiest way is to ask the organism whether or not it is capable of having a subjective experience. Obviously, you can do that with people who can speak. The way you do that with, say, animals or any other being, well, you'd look at structures that are similar in beings that we know have sentience, so like humans. If an animal has similar structures like a brain, nervous system, cerebrum, shit like that, chances are it's sentient.
What's the actual indicator for sentience, though?
Sorry?
What's the actual indicator in terms of like the physical state? What is it that indicates sentience? Like the physical existence of like the brain or whatever. Like what is it? Like because certainly there's organisms that have brains that aren't sentient. Certainly.
You'd have to give me an example of that. I don't know.
Sentience, so the brain, I think the brain tissue begins to develop within 8 weeks of a pregnancy, but certainly that thing's not sentient. Like at 7 weeks or whatever.
It could be. Yeah, it could be.
Well, how would you know?
Well, you don't. There are inferences you can make, and the greater amount of data you have, the greater amount of inferences you can make to deduce.
But you don't actually know whether it's sentient or not, unless you can interact with it, which you can't.
Well, look, we can interact with fetuses at that gestational age, and that's why we have.
How do you do that? How do you interact with it? I mean, like talk to it, touch it, whatever. Like.
Well, yeah. Again, you can use devices to actually directly interact with the fetus, like surgical devices.
But then what are you looking for that would indicate that it's sentient?
Well, you can look at things like brain activity, neural activity. You can actually look at how its nervous system responds to stimuli or noxious stimuli, and you can see whether or not it's reflex-based or not.
Yeah, but this is the thing. There are many organisms that don't have brains or that don't have they just don't have brain. I mean, you could look at plants, you could look at ants, you could look at any small organisms, bacteria that are reacting to stimuli, reacting to the external world, that you wouldn't call that sentience.
Yeah, so bacteria can certainly react to stimuli. The difference.
And how do you distinguish that from sentience?
Well, again, you would look to see whether or not the organism has similar structures to other beings that do have sentience, like humans, like, again, a fucking
similar
elephant
by
has
what
a brain.
basis?
Well, again, structures that we know cause sentience in, like, humans. So, like, again, a brain, nervous system, eyes are a really good indicator of sentience because, again, if you have eyes and those eyes are attached to a brain, you would assume the being is able to have some sort of subjective experience, like visually anyway.
But ultimately, when you determine something to be sentient, you're only doing so based on your preference for the definition, right?
No.
Well, okay, is there a scientific consensus on this then?
Well, there certainly is on certain animals. Some animals, sure, it's questionable whether or not they're sentient.
No, like on the existence of sentience and when it begins. Is there some hardline scientific consensus on when this begins? I'm talking about humans in particular here, by the way. But.
No, there's debate, but again, you can make a series of inferences, and the more inferences you can make, the closer you can, the greater degree of certainty you'll have when you make the deduction.
But you don't actually know. You don't actually have that. You don't even have close to a scientific consensus. If I'm not mistaken, like it's all over.
I have no idea.
Some people would say, I think you would probably say 8 weeks, because your crew says that. Some people say 12 to 16. Like Destiny
I don't think it's 8 weeks, actually. I think it's probably closer to between 12 and like 15 weeks.
So yeah, like your boys Abby and Ask Yourself, they say 8 weeks. I think Mouse.
Well, they say that's the earliest.
Everybody in your guys' camp
time.
says different things. You guys don't even have unified.
No. What they say is that's the earliest possible time that we can make an inference as to whether or not it's sentient, and they use a precautionary principle.
So that's just based on your judgment, your preferences.
No. I don't know how that's based on my preferences. Again, these are inferences we can make towards whether or not it's sentient.
Yeah, you're just making an inference based on what you prefer to define something as sentient or not.
Okay, well let's establish this. Do you think a brain is